Udamija Bhagawe Doka Samudaya Riya Sijam Yayandana Ono Bhaviga Nandiraga Sagada Dadara Vinandini Seyatidam Kamadana Bhavadana Vibhavadana. Translation, follow me. And what bhikkhus is the noble truth of the origin of suffering? It is that craving which gives rise to further rebirth and bound up with pleasure and lust, finds ever fresh delight, now here, now there, to which the sensual craving, the craving for existence, the craving for non-existence, dukkha samudaya ariya sija. Ariya should know the cause of suffering, the origin of suffering. The Buddha said that the cause of suffering is tanha, means craving or attachment or greed, lust, every mental state that arises in combination with desire or want. So Buddha said that craving is the origin of suffering, the origin of dukkha. The Buddha said, Yayantana Pono Bhaviga. This craving gives rise to fresh rebirth. Rebirth is life. Rebirth is the beginning of life. So rebirth is life, life is rebirth. So this rebirth life is dukkha. Here Buddha said that craving gives rise to fresh rebirth. It is the same as saying that craving gives rise to dukkha. Craving brings about suffering. Yayantana Pono Bhaviga Nandi Raga Sagada. Nandi Raga. Buddha said this craving is associated with pleasure and lust. Actually, pleasure and lust are themselves craving. So, craving, lust, pleasure, attachment, greed, they mean the same thing. So, regarding this, we will listen the story of Nanda later. Tatra Binandini. Craving finds ever fresh delight here and there. Here and there means in this life and in that life or in lives. So now it is said that the first active thought moment in one life is accompanied by attachment to that life. Wherever we are reborn, even if we in any existence, even the person is reborn in hell. The first active moment in that life is always bound up with tanha, attachment. So it takes delight in this here and there. So there are three kinds of craving mentioned in the first Saman Dhammacakka Sutta and Satipatthana Sutta and other places. So the origin of dukkha is craving. Here where the Buddha says craving gives rise to fresh rebirth and so on. That means the present rebirth is the result of the past craving. And then the present craving will be the cause of future rebirth. In that way, we should understand the second noble truth. Another way of understanding it is to consider situation in this life, and we can see that craving causes suffering. We often hear news about a plane crash. Very unfortunately, many people are killed in the crash. When we hear the news, how much suffering, how much dukkha do we suffer? Maybe just a little bit. We may say we very compassionate to them. Very unfortunate people. We do compassion for them. But we don't feel so deeply. But if there was a friend of ours among those who perished, our suffering is greater. We suffer more. What if a relative of ours was in the crash, or a very dear person was in the crash? We would suffer a lot. So our suffering actually is not caused by the death of the person, but the attachment we put on the person. The more attachment we have for that person, the more dukkha we suffer. So the real culprit here is attachment or craving for that person and not the death of that person or not the loss of that person. The same is true for things, material things we put much value on. Sometimes the price of the material things may not be great. We put some sentimental value on it, so we cherish it. If that thing is taken away from us, if that material thing is stolen, or let us say if it gets broken, we suffer a lot because we have put so much attachment, so much sentimental value on that material things. So our suffering is not caused actually by the loss of the things, Actually, it is caused by the degree of our attachment we put on that things. So if we understand that way, we can understand that attachment causes suffering. The Buddha's explanation goes deeper than that. Actually, the Buddha's explanation here is that craving gives rise to fresh rebirth. Now we are all attached to our lives. We don't want to die. We hold on to our lives until the last moment. So strong is that attachment to our life that it has the potential, it has the energy to create another life. So even though we die here, the attachment we have creates or brings about or gives rise to another life, another birth in the future. So the future rebirth is actually the result of the attachment we have in this life. Actually, Buddhas and those who have the supernormal power of remembering past lives and also the supernormal power of seeing beings die in one existence and being reborn in another, Deva Chakunyana. Such person alone can see clearly. We also believe that craving gives rise to fresh rebirth because Buddha taught it. And also we can infer this from craving causing suffering in this life. If it can cause suffering in this life, it can cause suffering in future lives because it has the power, it has the potential to create life in the future. And Buddha said that there are three kinds of craving: Kamatana, Bhavatana, and Vibhavatana. The first one, Kamatana, means craving for desirable objects. They are sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts which are desirable. Desire for these desirable objects. Attachment to these desirable objects is called Kamatana. So it is craving for desirable objects. The second one is Bhavatana. Bhava means existence or becoming. Here, according to the commentaries, it means not just existence or becoming, but it is the wrong view that beings are permanent, or it is the wrong view that there is a soul and that soul is permanent. So bhava here means what is called the eternity view, that is taking things to be eternal, taking things to be permanent. It is one of the wrong views. Craving associated with this wrong view, Sasataditi, is called Bhavatana. So bhavatana does not mean craving for existence. Craving for existence can be included in the first one, kamatana. That is because existence is also a desirable object. Bhavatana here means craving which is accompanied by eternity view, craving which is associated with the eternity view. You may have the view that things are permanent. You may have the view that things are eternal. Craving that is accompanied by that view that arises together with that view is called bhavatana. So it is not merely craving for existence, it is craving associated with the eternity view. And the third one is vibhavatana. It is another view which takes is that beings die and there is no more of them in the future. There is no more of them in the future. It is called the annihilation view, Uchitadeti. A being is annihilated as death, and there is no more of him or her in the future. Craving associated with that wrong view or craving accompanied by that wrong view is called vibhavatana. Sometimes being may have eternity view, or some others may have annihilation view. Craving accompanying those views are respectively bhavatana and vibhavatana. So we understand vibhavatana is craving associated with annihilation view. Some translated vibhavatana as craving for self-annihilation. It is very misleading. Few years ago, one man asked late Venerable Sayadaw Usilananda regarding this. And that man said to Sayadaw, Buddhism accepts suicide? He asked regarding this vibhavatana. Craving for annihilation is mentioned in the sutta. Vibhavatana is not craving for self-annihilation, but craving associated with this kinds of wrong view. So these are the three kinds of craving described by the Buddha in his exposition of the second noble truth. Yayantana Ponabhavika Nandiraga Sagata Tatra Binandini. Craving is bound up with lust and greed. Regarding this, we have to listen to the story of Nanda. Nanda is the Buddha's cousin brother. So we understand lobha. Lobha is attachment to sense object. Raga is stain or dye. Dana is called raga, stain or dye, because when there is raga, the mind is stained. Once there is stain or dye, it is very difficult to get rid of it. The viraga fading away, it is disappearance of dye or color, because when the person, when meditator reach the fourth stage of enlightenment, raga, stain is totally eradicated. So exactly 1 year after attainment of after after Buddha's enlightenment, he visited his native city, actually at the invitation of his father. Buddha went to his native city according to the text with 20,000 monks. He traveled from Rajaghat to Kapilavatthu. It is about 60 leagues in distance. Since 1 league is about 8 miles, it may be 480 miles, nearly about 500 miles. It is said that Buddha traveled 1 league a day, so he made the journey in 60 days. On the full moon day of May, Buddha reached his native city. He was greeted by his relatives and other people. He stayed at the monastery called Nirodharama Payantri Monastery. Although he was greeted by his relatives and his father, Suddhodana, and so on, nobody invited Buddha for meals for the next day, because maybe it was not a custom at that time. So the next day, Buddha went out for alms, taking his begging bowl. When King Suddhodana saw the Buddha going on alms round in the city, he was distressed and he was ashamed. And so King Suddhodana went to the Buddha and told him not to make them shameful by going begging. Then Buddha said, I was following my lineage. The father king said, no, our lineage of Sakya kings is not begging. And Buddha said, I am not talking about the lineage of Sakya kings. I was talking about the lineage of former Buddhas. So all Buddhas and all his disciples go out for alms every morning, and this is lineage he was following. And he uttered a verse, and King Suddhodana became a Sotapanna after that verse. And then he took Buddha to the palace and there Buddha uttered another verse, and at the end of the verse, King Suddhodana reached the second stage of enlightenment, and Buddha's stepmother, Mahabhajapati Gautami, became a Sotapanna. And on the third day, there was going to be a ceremony of consecration, housewarming, and wedding ceremony of Prince Nanda. Prince Nanda was Buddha's cousin. Since Buddha had become a Buddha and cannot be a king, Nanda was to be appointed a crown prince of the country. So Buddha went with his monks and took his meal. After his meal, Buddha gave his alms bowl to Nanda and Buddha left. Nanda was Buddha's younger cousin, and he had so much respect for the Buddha. And he dare not tell the Buddha to take his bowl back. He dare not. So Nanda followed the Buddha, hoping that Buddha would take his bowl back at the top of the staircase. When Buddha did not take there, he thought Buddha might take it at the foot of staircase and so on. And they went out the courtyard. Then some maids saw Nanda going after the Buddha. So they reported it to the bride, Janabhara Kalyani. And the bride opened the window, looked at Nanda, and she shouted to Nanda, "Hey Nanda, come back immediately." She shouted Nanda. So the words of the bride, "Come back immediately," pierced Nanda's heart were lodged in it. So that is Tanna pierced to his heart. So Buddha went and Nanda followed, and they reached the monastery. When they reached the monastery, Buddha asked Nanda, "Nanda, do you want to ordain?" It is a very tough question for Nanda. He was about to be married to the most beautiful woman in the country. And here Buddha, his elder brother, was asking him whether he want to ordain. But Nanda has so much respect for the Buddha that he dare not say, "I don't want to ordain." He dare not. So Nanda said to Buddha, "Yes, I want to ordain." So Buddha let the monks ordain Nanda, and Nanda became a monk, actually against his will. After staying for some time in his native city, Buddha went back to the city of Rajagaha and then to the city of Savatthi to accept the Jetavana monastery there. So he went there and Nanda followed him. Now Buddha, Nanda and other monks stay at the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi. And Nanda was not happy with the life of a monk. So he expressed this freely to other monks. He said, I'm not satisfied with this life of monk. I am not delighted. I will go back to lay life. Nanda said to other monks. Then the monks reported it to the Buddha, and Buddha called and asked Nanda whether it was true. Nanda said, yes, it was true. Then Buddha asked, why do you want to go back to lay life? Then he said, one day, when I was taking your bowl and walking after you, my bride, Chandabara clearly said to me, hey Nanda, my lord, come back immediately. And those words pierced my heart and were lodged in it. So I want to go back to lay life. Nanda said to Buddha. Then Buddha, taking his arm by his magic power, took Nanda to Tawadesa, heaven. On the way, Buddha let him see a she monkey with a nose, ear, and tail cut off, sitting on the stem of a tree. And they reached the abode of the kings of gods. When they reached there, Nanda saw celestial nymphs attending on the kings of gods. Now you know celestial nymphs, celestial devis are very beautiful. So Nanda was very delighted when he saw the celestial nymphs. Buddha saw this and asked Nanda, Nanda, how does your bride Janabharagliani compare with these celestial nymphs? Then Nanda said, one day, compare with these celestial nymphs, my bride Janabharagliani is like the she monkey we saw it on our way here. Actually, his bride was called Jandabata Kalyani. That means a beauty queen. She was very beautiful, but compared with celestial names, the bride Jandabata Kalyani was like she monkey. The Buddha said, Nanda, if you practice Dharma in my dispensation, I promise, I guarantee that you will get these celestial names. Then Nanda said to Buddha, if I can get these celestial names, I will practice the Dharma in your dispensation. And Buddha and Nanda came down to the human world from celestial realms. After some time, many monks knew about that. When the monks knew about this, they make fun of Nanda, telling him, here is Nanda who practiced Dhamma in the dispensation because he wanted to get celestial names. So Nanda is like a wage earner. He did the job because he wanted something. So many monks make fun of Nanda. So many monks joke about it here and there. And so he became ashamed. When he became ashamed, Nanda decided to practice Dhamma diligently. You know, first, Nanda mind was on his bride, and Buddha tactfully removed that attachment to his bride by showing him celestial names. Now his mind was on celestial names, and then the monks made joke of him. So Nanda no longer had maybe desire for celestial names, and he went to the secluded place and practiced meditation. Finally, he reached the highest stage of enlightenment, and he became an arahant. When Nanda became an arahant, he went to the Buddha during the night to report it to Buddha, and then he said, "Bande, you guarantee that I will get celestial names if I stay in the dispensation. Now I release you from this promise. I release you from this guarantee." Nanda said to the Buddha. Then Buddha said, "Nanda, I already know this. The moment your mind became free from taints, your mind became free from mental defilements. I assume that the guarantee is already released," Buddha said. But the other monks didn't know about that. One day the monks asked Nanda, "Nanda, how are you now? Are you delighted or are you not delighted with the life of a monk?" They asked Nanda. Nanda said, "Oh, my brothers, now I have no desire to go back to lay life again." When they heard it, they did not believe Nanda. So they thought Nanda was lying because it was the same as saying, "I have become an arahant," because they did not know that he had become an arahant. So they reported it to the Buddha, saying, "Bande, Nanda is telling lies." The other day, we asked him and he said he was not happy with the life of a monk. Now he said he had no desire to go back to lay life. So he was declaring himself to be an arahant. Then Buddha said, what Nanda said was true. Formerly, his mind was like a house with roof made badly. So lust can penetrate his mind. So Buddha said, Yata agaran dochanan voti samati vejati. Evo abhavitan chaitan raga samati vejati. That means even as rain penetrates an ill-thatched house, so does lust penetrate an undeveloped mind. It is formerly Nanda's mind was like a house with roof made badly, so lust can penetrate his mind. But now Nanda's mind was like a house with well-made roof and no mental defilements on and no lust can enter his mind. Buddha said, Yata agaran suchandan oti nasamati vijati. Evam subhavitan chaitan rago nasamati vijati. That means even as rain does not penetrate a well-thatched house, so does lust not penetrate a well-developed mind. Now Nanda's mind is like a house with well-made roof and no mental defilements and no lust can enter his mind. So Nanda is free from taste of mental defilements and he has become an arahant. So when the roof is not well made, rain can penetrate at the house. In the same way, when the mind is not developed, that means when we do not practice meditation, then lust or desire or tanha or raga or attachment can penetrate our mind. Here Buddha said just lust or desire and not other mental defilements. Because they are not relevant here, but when mind is really developed, not only lust, but also hate, delusion, and other mental defilements cannot penetrate or cannot enter our mind. So it is important that we make the roof good so that there is no leaking. And also we should develop our minds. We should practice meditation diligently so that mental defilements cannot penetrate our minds, or at least they do not overwhelm us. So to develop our minds, we need to practice mindfulness meditation continuously and meticulously. So mindfulness meditation is always the key for mental development. And it is said that Buddha taught Nanda the subject of mindfulness regarding the body. That means taking the names of different parts of the body, hairs of the body, nail, etc., and try to see them as loathsome and filthy and so on. But since every enlightenment must be preceded by vipassana meditation, we must understand that Venerable Nanda practiced as well. So in the Dhammavada commentary, it is not mentioned that Buddha taught him the mindfulness of the body meditation. It is just said he practiced meditation and Nanda became an arahant. Now here you are in the intensive retreat for 2 months. All yogis try to develop your mind. You try to make your mind's mental defilements proof by practicing meditation, by practicing mindfulness meditation diligently. So long as you are mindful, mental defilements get no chance to penetrate your mind or to get into your minds. When there is leaking, water comes into the house and it may damage the things inside. It is just that. But when we let mental defilements run into our minds, first our minds are contaminated, and since mental defilements are those that bring painful results. So letting mental defilements run into our minds can contaminate our minds in this life, and it can bring or it can give us undesirable, painful results in the future. If we do not want to suffer anymore, we need to keep our minds safe from the mental defilements, just as we need to make the roof good, or we need to make the roof safe from rainwater. By practicing Vipassana meditation, you all are making your mind safe from your mental defilements. The safer you can make your minds free from mental defilements, the better you will be in your Satipatthana path. Now, in this retreat, you are trying to understand the first noble truth of suffering, the five aggregates of clinging or suffering, every seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are suffering. When you practice meditation, you understand the truth of suffering. And then you are trying to get rid of the cause of suffering, that is craving, not only craving other mental defilements, you can get rid of these mental defilements by practicing meditation continuously. And you are developing the path leading to the cessation of suffering. And by practicing Vipassana meditation continuously and diligently, you will realize that noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Finally, so we will continue that noble truth. Next day, we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing Vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.